Wakey, wakey, smell those eggs and bakey. It's time for Breakfast Talk, a podcast discussing current, independent, and mainstream entertainment topics from gaming and movies to comics. Start your week off right with the Breakfast Boys. As always, if you can smell what we're cooking, click that like button, and if your tummies are rumbling for more, click subscribe and ring that brekkie bell to turn on all notifications. All right, let's talk.
So today we're talking about Invincible.
No, you're talking about.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I was trying to make that.
That's my favorite part of the show.
I was trying to make our own intro. Anytime you say Breakfast Talk, before you say it, I was gonna put the title up and be like, but I wasn't able to do that.
Maybe you can do that for the what's it called, the edited version.
Well, I could do that. Yeah, I have to figure out
All
how to
we'll do is just put the image in there and have it fade forward a little bit, and then
because everybody knows that this is.
And then of course no one's gonna hear that because it'll be like
exactly. But that's what we want this time, so it's okay.
I was trying to download a template for the Invincible intro, but it wasn't downloading. I was like, okay, and I don't know how to make blood splatter yet.
No, don't worry about that.
Yeah,
all right.
The first one didn't have it.
That'd be cool. Instead of blood, it would be just like butter hitting the screen.
Oh my god, that's it.
Oh,
Buttercat's over there like
chilling. He's chilling right on my shoulder. I love him. What's up, buddy? What's up, buddy?
What we can do is each person will have their own time to talk about Invincible, not the spoilers. I made a little clip for that at least. So
we're going to talk about what we think before the spoilers. Like we're going to do the rating thing like we did with Godzilla.
Yeah. So whoever wants to go first, I could just make you a solo screen.
Oh, fancy.
So wait, before we do that, we got to figure out what the categories are that we're rating this on.
Yeah,
so we talked about it last week, didn't we?
I just want to clarify those so that the folks know.
Right.
So
Okay.
It's going to be a superhero, right? So a superhero, anything, like whether it's a cartoon or a real movie. The fact that it's like an animation, right? That's a big one. I forgot the other one was. Maybe just a movie in general or a show in general, like what we
probably just like story.
Yeah, like a show story, like how does it progress and like all the elements of like a story.
And the fact that it's like a mini series, I guess, like that,
right.
Like that concept that it's a short eight episode thing. Like, what do you think about just that? Who wants to go first? Greg.
Me?
I think Greg's going first. I think you got voted in. Yeah.
Okay.
You're in the hot seat.
Do we rate with the stars? I guess so. 0 out of 5 or whatever.
Out of 10. Yeah, out of 10.
Out of 10. Yeah, out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives a little more freedom, and then you can still use the halves. But when you use halves when you're at 5, you're like, why didn't you just use 10?
Okay, so I have to say stuff without saying spoilers. All right.
Yes. Go.
Cool. Wow, that's my face.
You feel audible?
Nobody wants this. Look at that. All right, so let's try to do this quick so you don't have to keep looking at my freckles and stuff. So to rate Invincible, as an animation, probably 8 out of 10 because there is that CGI background kind of situation that they have with cities and stuff, which I know that some people complain about that, but it'd be a little cooler if it was more what was it? New Adventures of Batman or whatever it is. Batman, New Adventures. And then let's see, a show story-wise, it's a 10 or 9 out of 10. That was good because I was very confused because if you don't know, it's a comic book and it's based off of a comic book, and I didn't know that for a long time. So that's a very good animation that was adapted from a comic book. Though I have never read the comic book, but I know that there's certain things that are different because you got to change some things. And what was the other one? So there was story. There was
Superhero.
Superhero 10. That was like that's amazing. There was like definitely not like really for kids. Probably more for like teenagers and up, because there's a lot of violence and I don't want to spoil anything. There's like a meme. It's like, oh, what we have for lunch or dinner, Subway. Yeah. So that's my rating. So like.
All right.
So who's up next?
Well, bring us back to the three of us. We can look at you and judge you silently.
Yeah.
Cool. It's judges. Can he hear us? Yes.
No.
I was able to hear you.
Greg.
All right, I want to go next because I feel like Hector's going to have some really awesome opinions, and I just binge watched it last week, so it was awesome.
I was trying to rewatch it, but I didn't
Yeah,
have
it's pretty long. It's like 45 minutes an episode, I think.
Give Dilly the screen. Give him the
like
screen.
I was really tired, so.
Pass the mic.
Pass the mic.
That's
Wrong
that.
one. That's me.
That's you. Okay.
But I mean,
That's me. Look at that. We basically faded into each other. I kind of felt that. Kind of like that guy.
yeah.
But I won't
Felt
say
good.
that.
That felt good though.
You get what I'm saying? You know the guy I'm talking about.
You know the guy.
But anyways, yeah. So I would say, so I'm going to go broad first. So like as a animation in general, like or a TV show. I mean, that's what it was. A TV show in general. I think that it's one of those shows where somebody told me like the first episode gets you hooked, and even my brother agreed. Like it doesn't really until like right at the end. And because of that, it's like that's a unique way to do it. For anyone who's seen The Boys, like it starts right off. We're like, whoa, okay, that's what this show's about. Where this one, it kind of almost feels like you're watching like an old classic of the same caliber, and then suddenly something insane happens, and you're like, what the hell's going on? So like that kind of play on storytelling was very cool. Like, obviously that intro we were joking about earlier, like those little details that they added throughout the show that made it stand out in a way that I haven't seen before. Like, by the last episode, I'm like jacked. I'm like, oh my God, like this is so exciting. Like I'm like jumping up out of my seat. So I think that the way that it strings you along is very clever. It's very, very well, the story is very well thought out, and I very much like that. As for an animation, I guess that was the second one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as an animation, yeah, the artwork is, kind of just reminds me like Justice League. It was a very good artwork. Obviously, there's a little stuff that they didn't have in the Justice League, so that was unique to see it in this format. But they're really good at showing a lot of the facial expressions are great. Like when you see, some of the bad guys, especially like the one at the end, like you just looking at his face, and you're like, holy crap! Like he looks infuriated. Like you feel like that energy coming off the screen, and that's like really hard to capture in animation. So they did a really good job. I think I've talked about this in like a past podcast about like Aladdin and how they use like the time of day and like the lighting in a scene to make it more appealing, and they did a great job like encapsulating that in this animation. And then as a superhero show, definitely something that like, so
Wait, what was your ratings of them? I'm sorry, did did you give them a numbers yet?
Oh yeah. So I'll say for the general show, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, only because if you're not a superhero fan, it may not be as captivating, but it is a great story. And I think that if you put that in a different context, like if it was like say a horror, like if you remove the superheroes but have the same type of plot line, but with horror, like it might not be as amazing, as it was as a superhero one. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. For an animation, like I said, it's basically like the Justice League, and like that stuff was top tier. So I'm giving that like 8 out of 10. Like it's still something where like maybe 9 out of 10. It's one of those things where I haven't seen something where like when you watch some of the old anime like Cowboy Bebop, like the art in that is like so captivating. Where this one was like really good looking art, like it just looked like what I would expect a comic book rendition of an animation to look like. You know what I mean? So like I would say I'd stick with the 8 out of 10. So it's very clean, it's very detailed, but it doesn't have the amount of details as like certain animes have. Like
artistry. It's lacking a little bit of the artistry.
Yeah, where like that's why like a lot of anime has some of like the hyper cartoonish all the way down to like the like wow, like I feel evil coming off the screen. Where like this did really good with emotions. That's why if the emotions weren't on point, I'd probably give it more like a 6 out of 10. But with the fact that they were so great, specifically with the face of capturing that, I'll give that an 8 out of 10. And for a superhero show, if you like The Boys and that type of like viewpoint of superheroes, then you're definitely going to enjoy this. When it comes to general superhero, like if you're looking for, the classic Superman, Batman, like very easily defined borders, you're probably not going to like this because it's very pulling you around. And so me personally, I like when you are confused by a story, but like it's intentional. Like you're like what's going on here? Like I know there has to be something. Like I'm waiting for it. It's pulling me in. So for a superhero movie, very much like The Dark Knight, how it's a new, like there wasn't really a good superhero movie before that was like that type of pulling you in on a new side of it. And I would say that based on how this one plays out beginning to end, very much a 10 out of 10. I'll give it that.
All right. I thought Greg just like left at that point.
I heard this news.
All right, let's do it. All right, so I thought it was a great show in general. Let's just put a big swing on that one. But yeah, so as a show in general, I thought there was a little bit of pacing issues. Like there could have been some more moments that weren't so focused on, I guess, just like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, okay, so I wanted Invincible to be, I guess, a little bit more involved in like becoming a superhero, and it felt like there was moments where it was not focused on superhero stuff, but more of like the periphery kind of things, like relationships and things like that, which aren't bad. It's definitely like the human element to it. But it didn't feel like we didn't get like a training scene that was like really like in depth, and we didn't see like him striving. He was self-described as this is what he wants to do, but it didn't really seem like he had a lot of drive. And that was like, maybe I wanted like a montage scene of him training that we didn't get. So that was probably the only thing that I felt like lacked in the show in general. But I would agree that it definitely had kept pulling you around different ways. It turned into like a kind of like a murder mystery at some point, which was cool. The character sets that they used in terms of telling this story was really, really good. You have a lot of crossover of different heroes, which again, or hero archetypes that we see a lot in the, as comic creators and indie creators, we probably see this a lot, like, kind of reskinned kind of versions of the same superheroes that we've seen. So those archetypal superheroes like Superman, Batman, kind of reinvented in different ways, which, I do enjoy. I enjoy seeing that, especially if it's very much on the side of parody and things like that. So as a general story and show, I'll definitely put it up there at like a 7.5 and an 8. I think that it was a solid story. It doesn't ever leave you feeling like, why am I watching this? Like, you definitely get a lot of those cliffhangers moving into the next show, which I like because, I want to feel like I'm leading into something and leading into the next show, and not just like, should I even watch the next one kind of thing, where, some shows can be like that. So as an animation, I'm a little more critical because, like, as you mentioned, Bebop, I'm actually wearing like a Bebop shirt right now. I'm a huge fan of anime and animation in general. Like, traditional, I actually wanted to be an animator at one point in my life. So I'm a little more critical of it. I think that
like you said, it was solid in the sense of let's take a American comic book and make it into an animation. I think it was on par with like some of the DC movies, some of the Marvel like animated movies. It was kind of on par. The only thing that did bug me was or there was a few things that bugged me. So if you know anything about animation, there's a lot of time that's put into it. So there's always going to be little things that help you cut corners on like time or energy or budget. And, you try to make those as minimal as possible. So like the audience does not recognize that this is something that you're doing to cut corners on costs or time or whatever the case may be. So there was moments in this animation that I saw it. Like I saw behind the curtain and I was like, oh yeah. So they're just doing that to save money or, whatever, to save on resources. So there was a few instances where I did see that. So that kind of like just threw me off a little bit, especially because we see animations like shows animations like the Justice League or Young Justice was an amazing animated series. First of all, like if you guys have not seen Young Justice, go and watch that shit. It's amazing. So when you see something like that, like a Young Justice or a Justice League, of those iterations like Unlimited and things like that, everything is hand drawn, everything is animated. It's done well. It's consistent throughout. There's not really like these fall offs where you go like, oh, this is a different animator, and I can tell. Which like Dragon Ball Z, if you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z, you can tell when it's like this, when it's Toriyama or it's somebody else that's animating these scenes. You don't ever get that with those kinds of animations like Young Justice or Justice League. But in this, you can kind of tell that like some of these fight scenes, like they were done really, really well. And then you go to like another scene and it's definitely more like, kind of like cut and paste animation where it's like you just need a couple things to move around, so you don't need like these really in-depth scenes. So they pass it off to maybe like the junior animators, and the junior animators kind of take care of those scenes, and they save the bigger scenes for like the very experienced animators in house. So again, I just noticed those things because I like those things. But just as a general animation in terms of my score, I would still give it like a 7. Still definitely above average on that. And I agree with like the facial expressions were very, very good. You felt a lot of energy. There was a lot of focus on those facial expressions, on emotionality and things like that. So I agree with that. And then I also agree with the settings, the time and place. There was a lot of things that felt very like well lit. There was a great environment to them and things like that. So I'll give that as part of my rating that's in there as well. Another thing, super side note, that's depending on who you are and how you feel about it, it could be in either category, as animation or as just like in general. The music was like top notch. And then also they had so much voice acting talent in the series that was like really, really great. Like you can tell like this is this famous, actor is doing this voice talent. It's not just another voice actor, that we've heard maybe a billion times, throughout animation. It's like, these actors that we haven't seen voice over anything else, and they're in this show voicing over. So that was pretty cool. Those are just some marks for me that, if I had a separate category for that, I would definitely, raise that score up to probably like a 9 out of 10. And then, as a superhero category, man, that's hard for me because I feel like it's done really well. Like the writing is done really well. There's a spin, but there is a little bit of obviousness to it because you have the whole, again, playing on the archetype. So for me, it's like I've seen that done a lot, in comics or, in indie comics, especially. And even like in like Justice League and like DC, you see, the spin on the Superman archetype a lot, even with the various multiverses and things like that, or something like Owlman, compared to Batman. So you see that, there's the same kind of spin that they have in other iterations of comics and things like that. But what I will say is that having it be a lot more adult focused, adult related, adult content, like in terms of like the subject matter, the blood, the gore, the focus on detail when it comes to those aspects of blood and gore, when you have a lot of these like head exploding kind of moments and things like that, it takes it up to a whole different level of seriousness that isn't found in those other places. So I would give it marks on that, on not gore itself, but just like accuracy and realism when it comes to that kind of stuff. with the spin of, again, the archetypal hero and things like that. Again, the hero sets that you have in here were really, really cool. You have a Superman type, but he's not like the ridiculousness of Superman. So he's a little tamed in. I always like when they kind of rein into heroes and there's not these like, a battle of the OPs. So I definitely like that. I like that Invincible was very much Vincible. And he got his ass kicked a lot, even though I did want to see him kind of kick more ass. I think like it's a buildup, it's kind of like in Kick-Ass, you have to see him get his ass kicked first before he starts kicking some ass, and lives up to the name. So I'm eager to see where that heads out to as well. So my overall rating for like a superhero book would probably still be in that 7.5 to 8 range. So pretty high marks for me all around. And I think it was definitely a great watch. I watched it before, and then yesterday I just binge watched the entire series just because I was like, I need to like remember these different elements and really refresh myself to give it a truly accurate rating in all these categories. So that's where I fall in all those things. And that's the El Loco opinion.
Nice. I actually do want to adjust my superhero one to a 9 out of 10. And one of the things you had mentioned, I forgot to like really think about, which was, so the reason why I still keep it really high is because they owned the crap out of it. They started off where you're like, oh, that's Batman, the Flash, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, that's exactly who they are, and they are not ashamed at all about it. And I think that, like, the fact that they got past it so quick with no jokes about it, like it was just like so obvious we're not even going to talk about it.
Right.
That make, like, I think that if they focused too much on that, I would have dropped that all like another star or two, because like the fact that they were just like unabashful, like, but like, yeah, like how the Superman style character, like, you can't see through walls and hear from like millions of miles away. Like those little tiny details helped make the story so much more enjoyable that like I still can look past any similarities to other superheroes. It's a very cool concept. So what was it? Greg's over here with like 8, 9, 10, or 8, 10, 10. I gave it a 7, 8, 9, and you gave it a 7, 8, 7.
7, 8, 8. Let's go there. 7, 8, 8.
7, 8, 8. Nice.
At some point, I'll start finding a way to make graphics for stars and stuff. That'd be pretty cool. But,
yeah, we'll put it in there. We'll make it fancy.
So that was episode 16.